let's go to the one College Station where I'm sure everyone had this one down, including every A&M fan. Texas A&M 38, number 5 LSU 23. And I mean, sure, right? Like A&M comes into this one with absolutely nothing to play for but pride. They're sitting there at 4-7, already eliminated from bowl eligibility, obviously. And LSU has legit playoff hopes if they can just get by A&M and, you know, somehow knock off Georgia next week in Atlanta. And A&M just kind of dominates the Tigers for most of the game. Like the score is they win by 15, and it felt at points in the second half that it should have been even more than that. The Tigers had no answer for Devon Achane. Connor Wegman was, pretty good. He was efficient through the air, didn't turn the ball over, made some really nice throws, especially in the red zone. But really, it was just Devon Achane. LSU could not stop him. 38 carries for 215 yards and two
That's a whole
touchdowns.
bunch.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. This is kind of the A&M team we expected to see this season, so naturally we have to wait till next September to see what they can actually do. Just when they figure it out, we're going to get to see it next year. Man, it was crazy. The Tigers came in with real need to impress people, right? They really needed to impress the playoff committee to show that even with 2 losses and possibly a third to Georgia, but what if TCU slips up and, what if, Michigan or Ohio State, they're just not quite. And instead, what do? They come out, they weren't focused. I don't think that they really took this game seriously. I don't think they had a good week of practice, probably, because when you're that level of team and you practice that well, you come out and you do really well against teams that, let's face it, are inferior. Instead, they come out here and they lay this. A Chain was phenomenal. That's an all time performance from a running back. Muhsin Muhammad was sensational as well. He pulled in a one-handed catch for a touchdown that
that was
looked like it
awesome.
was perfect placement, and he just kind of had him at arm's length and reached up and snagged it, no problem. He also had a ball where he just kind of wrestled it away from a guy that it was a slightly underthrown ball on a go route. He just kind of wrestled it away from him and said, "Nope, that's mine. Get mossed." He's going to be huge if they can keep him in the boat, obviously, going into next year. I think that gives them a true number one wide receiver to be able to go out there and say, that's the guy I'm going to try to feed the ball to. This should go a long way, kind of like what I was saying, to keeping the Aggie roster together through this offseason. Obviously, with this much adversity, you're going to see some turnover, both in the coaching staff and on the roster. But for any of those guys who are maybe just wanting a little bit more of that positive taste in their mouth to go into this offseason with, to say, hey, why should I stick around? Hey, this didn't work out. I think this was a big night for a lot of those players who just needed to see that, yeah, like when we put it all together, we can do something like this. We can put together what I think is probably the best win of the Jimbo Fisher era, just given quality of opponent and the way that they beat them. They beat LSU soundly. Some of those big wins that they had over Bama and Florida in the past, those wins came, in tight games, right? 41-38, I think. And so, this was a sound victory, huge win for Jimbo and his program to go into the offseason with just a little bit more hope, maybe going into next year and not feeling like the sky is falling. On the LSU side, I was always kind of confused why the college football playoff had them ranked so highly. I didn't think that they deserved to be in contention for a playoff spot, but they were, and they got exposed. They just flat out got exposed. They couldn't do anything offensively outside of some brief moments of success running the ball. Obviously Daniels had a great night scrambling, but really didn't get much going in the pass game. Fact of the matter is the SEC West has just kind of been down this year. Obviously, with Bama having a couple losses, LSU with a couple losses, they'll go to Atlanta, but they're a flawed team. And so are several of the other teams in the SEC West this year. They don't deserve to be in the conversation, and they're not anymore. And by the way, Bama doesn't deserve to be in this conversation either. We'll talk about that in a few
We'll
minutes. But
address
Bama
that for sure.
does not deserve to be in the playoff after that. I think Georgia is the better team. They'll beat them pretty soundly next week, and we'll see what happens from there. But I think LSU got a little bit exposed, and maybe they'll take all 12 games of their schedule seriously next time.
It'll be fascinating to see how LSU responds because I could see them going into Atlanta and just really not wanting to be there next week.
Sure.
And we'll save that for the preview show because I think there's a lot of situations like that in conference championship week next week. But yeah, I mean, LSU was a flawed team all year. They were a flawed team that kept winning, and that's why they were ranked so high. They got the big win against Alabama. They had beaten everybody else in the SEC West up to that point, and one of their losses was on the first game of the season on kind of a fluke blocked extra point, right?
Sure.
So still a successful year one for Brian Kelly. I don't
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
you can take that away from him. I think they far exceeded. I know they far exceeded my expectations winning the SEC West,
Same
even
here.
in a
Yep.
down year. But yeah, just really crazy situation where A&M again, the team comes out and punches them in the mouth. I think they expected A&M to kind of roll over, and they weren't ready. Here's the key stat for the Aggies, and I totally agree that they're going to go into the offseason with a lot more confidence now. They flipped the script on the third down woes that they've had all year. So all year long, A&M has just been atrocious, getting off the field on third down on defense and keeping drives alive on third down on offense. And it was the exact opposite this last night. So 10 of 15 on third down on offense. Connor Wegman made some big plays with his arm and his legs. Devon Achane was amazing, like we talked about. And on defense, they allowed just 4 of 11 on third down. And I know I was going to look this up as well. Yeah, they didn't allow a fourth down conversion. So
Yeah.
LSU was either too far away to go for it, and the one time they did, I think that was at the very end of the
I
game.
think
That
so.
drop
Yeah.
pass.
Had to do it moment. Yeah.
Yeah, so great win for Jimbo Fisher. Definitely keeps a less bitter taste in his mouth, but he's still got a lot of work to do to get that Aggie program back on track.
For sure. And to the third down point, the Aggies going into the game were 32% offensively on converting third downs. That should tell you a lot about why this team was so bad this year, but also to be able to flip it and go 10 of 15. Now that's 67%. That's a huge improvement in just one game. So I think this kind of shows what they could have been if they were able to kind of put the pieces together. Now, maybe they just figured out which guys need to go in which roles, and obviously if they can, find a way to pull Achane back for one more year, that would be huge for them. I wouldn't necessarily count on that. I think that his stock is super, super high, and I think that he'll be able to go and get, drafted pretty early. But, all that to say, if they can find a way, maybe through NIL, to get him to come back for another year, I think this could be a very good team going into next season.
Gracious, how about